Welcome back to the show, everyone. I've got a few interesting stories for you. First up, it would take Warner Brothers a few clicks to preserve some real good indie games, but they just won't do it. Details are emerging from indie devs who are about to be impacted by the closure of Adult Swim games. I mean, come on, it's Adult Swim. They just do off-the-wall cool shit. I mean, hell, do you remember Too Many Cooks? Anyway, this is a bit of a disaster for preservation, and it's one that is entirely driven by a complete lack of interest from Warner Brothers. Elsewhere, though, well, PlayStation have revealed a kill switch that can remove content from your library. That's not good. It's not the usual thing where, you know, a game gets pulled off Steam, but if you own it, you can still download it, or at least it's still on your machine. No, this is quite bad. Also, Electronic Arts have accidentally wrecked the launch of a indie game that was 10 years in the making, and over at Activision they've got the fun situation of 600 of their QA staff unionizing. So yeah, that'll be real cool for the managers over there. There's so much going on in the industry right now, and our ability to actually cover it is possible because of the people who support us over at Bellular.games. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined up over there. Of course, it's great seeing everyone in the members Discord. In addition to that, though, obviously, there is early access to content. You guys get Loading Screen published every single weekday, which is our newsletter. Lands right in your mailbox, and yeah, it keeps you up to date with the gaming news. So that's what's going on there, and yeah, it is the best way to support what we do on this show. Warner Brothers, and when we get into the new stuff in this story, it really is just needlessly cruel the way that this is being done, and it sucks for game preservation. Where we last left this story, right, was small radios, big televisions being delisted. Turns out, though, that's not the only game. There's another one, Fist Puncher from Team 2-Bit. They are about to be delisted from Steam at the behest of their publisher's parent company, and this is a scenario we're seeing being repeated across the whole Adult Swim game lineup. Here's just the quote directly from them. "We've asked that Warner Bros. Simply transfer the game to our Steam publisher account so it can stay active, but so far they have said no, with the reason being they've made a universal decision to not transfer the games back to original studios, and they don't have the resources to do so. No, the transfer process is not complicated. It literally takes about 2 minutes from their end." That, I can confirm, is absolutely goddamn true, because, well, we have a game that we have, developed that, was published with our publisher, Fellow Traveler. We all know the Steam backend. They're not bullshitting you when they say that. It is true. It takes about 2 minutes. It's very quick to do that transfer. That Warner Brothers is not doing it is insane. There is really no valid reason not to do so. It is absolutely simple. They are just doing the thing that is wrong. It's as simple as that. Now, there are a total of 19 games listed on Steam as being under Adult Swim games. You've got games that are actually massive hits, like Duck Game, which really means that the entire, imprint of games from the Adult Swim sort of publishing group, that's going. And very much, in a number of cases, in spite of the express hopes from their creators, it's one of those things. The company, Warner Bros., they're not interested in any of this. They're winding down Adult Swim games. They're getting rid of this stuff. What harm does it do to take the single-digit number of minutes to do a quick transfer? It's insane. Now, here's some words from Studio Bean, who made a game called Sound Dodger. "I sent them the Steam transfer link, explained that it takes 3 clicks, and they still refused, claiming it would only be fair to transfer no one's games because they can't do them all," which, by the way, is still completely insane. Now, they go on to say, "They, Warner Bros., are allowing me to republish to Steam as long as I remove any and all mention of Adult Swim in the game, including team members from the credits." To which they say, "I'm all for games preservation, but this ain't it, chief." And that absolutely is the case, right? So republishing the game on Steam is a pretty insane way to do this. Whenever you lose your reviews, that is a humongous and vital asset that you have lost that is literally important to the Steam algorithm. So that's very, very damaging, and to remove people from the publisher in the game's credits is pretty insane. Like, that just makes no sense. It's needlessly cruel. This is just bizarre stuff. Overall, like, this is not the worst case scenario. I mean, that they can republish is good, but the developers are not being left in a reasonable position here. Whenever you're republishing a game, you've kind of got no community behind you, years of review scores, achievements, guides, forums, all of those things that exist on your games like Steam entry, all of those being gone. That is just needlessly harming them. And this is all because whoever's running it at WB Games at the operation level is just not willing to take the slightest step. Again, as multiple people have said, and I can verify, it's a matter of a few clicks, and you're doing that for 19 games? And look, if somebody doesn't get back to your email about this, fine. That doesn't mean you suddenly have an excuse to not do it for anyone. This is literally just Warner Brothers deciding that these games, the style of game, doesn't fit their plan, but the thing is, they're not exiting this in a gracious and respectful fashion, and that's just the wrong thing to do. Very simple. The next thing that is definitely the wrong thing to do, and I suppose is just a bit spooky, is what's going on over with PlayStation. I don't think people like the idea that games can just be taken out of their libraries. In this case, it's Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade is an upcoming character action game that is developed by Shift Up Games, it's published by PlayStation, and it's developed a bit of a cult following ahead of its release, which is going to be on the 26th of April. A 45-minute demo of the game appeared on the PlayStation Store, so that audience was very excited to try it out. It had seemed with this that there was no, big marketing beat. It basically looked like a shadow drop. Thing is, though, it was then pulled from the store, so it seems that it was maybe set live early or something like that. Now, look, this is a pretty hyped game. Obviously, that means that people did get to download it. They downloaded it, they recorded gameplay footage. That's now floating around the internet. But the thing is, PlayStation took a actually unprecedented step. I think that's the bit that matters here. This hasn't really been done in this way. They disabled the license for the demo as a PlayStation title, and that means that if you downloaded this game to your library, if you were connected to PSN whatsoever, the game would be unplayable. So yes, the actual removal of the digital license, that is the bit that matters. That's the bit that's fairly different here. This would mean that even if people were, say, mid-session playing the game, they just get booted and that's it, the game is gone. Now, this, importantly, is not what happened with Silent Hill PT, right? With that, Konami delisted it from the store, but you could still play PT if you had it installed, which then led to that funny thing of people just selling a PS4 on the strength that the internal memory of the PS4 had a copy of PT. Thing is, though, if that copy of PT was there, you could play it. Here, though, the demo for Stellar Blade is simply gone. Now, almost certainly, this will be back. And I suppose for many people, they could say, look, this was a mistake. They're undoing their mistake. The demo will come up soon enough, right? It's also the case that this is not being done with anything that everybody has purchased, right? So it's not like a particularly evil or bad thing is happening. It's more the precedent that something in your library can just be disabled. That is something that people are not necessarily comfortable with. Again, you're thinking like in 10 years, in 15 years, what if things change? A server goes down, licenses expire, whatever it may be. Well, people would be worried. They would like to think that when they bought these games digitally, that would kind of count for something. So essentially, it's dredging up a lot of those, I think, quite rightly held fears. Really, the potential is the thing that is scary. John Linneman, of course, you'll know him from Digital Foundry. The thing that he pointed out here is that the tech means that Sony has the absolute power over removing something from their ecosystem. As he says, this is highly concerning. They can choose to disable any license at any time for any reason, and there's not much you can do about it. Yeah, so it's that they can do that. It's that the kill switch exists. That is what is worrying to people. So that's essentially where we're at with this story. It's a concerning thing. Now, obviously, whenever we buy game licenses, because that is, technically speaking, that's what we buy, those do come with terms and conditions, right? If you break them, then yeah, your license can be revoked. Let's just say you buy a whole bunch of games in Steam, and then you do something to get your Steam account banned. Well, yeah, all those digital games are gone. Same will happen on PlayStation, Xbox, any of those things. So really what this story is doing is just highlighting something we've been discussing a lot, which is the implications for ownership, for preservation, and of course with new consoles being done without discs. We're pretty sure anyway is what's going on with the refresh of the Xbox Series X. Obviously that's been going on with the PlayStation Slim and the PS5 discless. Yeah, if those discs are going the way of the dodo, then this is the only way that we will own games. games. And of course, my own little personal perspective there is I'm just worried that less people will have Blu-ray capable devices, because seriously, if you have a good TV and you get the 4K Blu-ray for a movie, man, compare that to what you'll get in Amazon or Netflix, and you'll be kind of sad then, I think, that Blu-ray may fall out of fashion as less people have Blu-ray compatible devices underneath their televisions. Next then, we've got EA accidentally nuking a indie launch. This is a pretty damn rough one. So here's what happened. EA put out Command & Conquer: The Ultimate Collection. It's a group of 10 games and 7 expansions that's basically designed to make Command & Conquer approachable to new players. The idea is, here it is, it's 10 quid. For 10 pounds, you can just have Command & Conquer. And I've got to say, that's pretty fantastic, right? And these are so approachable that these actually just seem to be the DRM-free versions from GOG that have been available for years, but of course, put onto Steam, where a lot of people actually want to have their games. You don't need to connect to an EA app or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, you can just get them in GOG. It's probably better to do that, but if you want your games in Steam, well, here they are. That's really good, and Command & Conquer is absolutely bloody awesome. Big part of many of our childhoods. Now, this was shadow dropped on Friday the 8th of March, and that's actually rather impactful. So on Steam, you will see the likes of New and Noteworthy, right? So New and Noteworthy is essentially chronological, and it's also somewhere where you actually get a hell of a lot of visibility for your game. It plays a fairly major part in the first few days, and the first few days of performance for your game are absolutely crucial. You'll therefore see that many indies, many who don't have super large marketing budgets, they will release their game on a Friday, because that basically means you're sort of steering clear, ideally, of the games that have came out through the week. A lot of games don't come out on the weekend for fairly obvious reasons, so if you release on Friday, that ends up making a lot of sense. That is, in fact, when we released Pale Beyond. That's when our publisher decided to release it. They gave us, this sort of their reasoning and, their experience doing that with numerous titles, and it made complete sense. So here's a case where we're going to get into this, an indie game called Potions, A Curious Tale. Well, it kind of got wiped off the board, and this is a game that Renee here had spent 10 years making. Now that sucks for fairly obvious reasons, right? You're just going to be losing loads of Steam traffic, like as they post here, here's the section, and it is just Electronic Arts, and that's not great, right? That's really going to suck. Now, when you're an indie and you don't have a big marketing spend, you do just sort of have to rely on the likes of New and Trending, which itself is essentially a chronological thing. Now, in this case, the dev themselves acknowledge that this is just really bad luck. She's not saying that this is EA's fault, that they, meaningfully, were out to get her, which, is obviously not the case. This is just really rough timing. Of course, though, there's maybe a little bit of a silver lining here, which is there was quite a lot of news around this. It exploded pretty big on Twitter, got some headlines across the gaming press that likely will have led to just a bit more awareness and support for the game, which, is a little bit, I suppose, of the universe correcting itself. Now, that being said, it does seem that there are more kind of like EA collections of games coming out, so I suppose if you are an indie developer, well, watch out. EA may just bury you in old games. At least it seems that people are being buried with really good old games, but still not a fantastic situation. Ultimately then, Potions: A Curious Tale is actually sitting right now on a very positive on Steam, so it does seem that things ended up okay. Now, where things have ended up, you could say okay for the workers and a bit less okay for some of the leaders, is Activision QA unionizing en masse. Generally speaking, QA, they kind of get treated like shit. They're treated often like it's a kind of a nearly an unskilled labor sort of situation, which, it kind of almost, to be honest with you, it does anger me even just as an idea. Some people may say, working at a job site is like a low skill labor thing. I can certainly say I've been down in a foundation, digging things, and even though somebody may say unskilled, there are people who can dig a goddamn foundation a lot better than other people, right? So rant aside, QA doesn't really get its due. right? And I mean, indeed, in lots of places, people's roles don't really get their due. If you're a customer, if you're playing a lot of video games, you'll certainly know that QA is important. And you'll probably know because there's lots of bugs in games. And a lot of people would then go and say, oh my God, QA, they didn't even catch this shit. Well, usually what happens is, QA does catch it. QA catches a lot of things. The problem usually is the development team being the bottleneck. They just literally don't have the time to fix all the bugs. I mean, look at how half-baked so many modern game releases are. Do you think that those are development teams that have got time to do their jobs properly? I mean, the answer there is no. But anyway, QA are often treated pretty replaceable. It's pretty rubbish. Overall, then, what's happened here is an agreement with the CWA, Communication Workers of America, and it's called Activision Quality Assurance United. They've got 600 members across Texas, California, and Minnesota. Speaking to The Verge, who are the ones who broke this story, Tom Shelley, a union organizer, basically said that this came explicitly following Microsoft's acquisition. Here's the quote: "This has been an emergent effort that's arisen in the last few weeks in response to the opportunities we've had to freely organize following the merger." And this is actually the thing. Microsoft had made some public commitments to, I don't want to say being pro-union, but they were making good public commitments anyway that were kind of widely celebrated as being a major, pretty important company actually taking a good move. Of course, they've said that, and then obviously you've had the layoffs. Could a union prevent a layoff? I mean, maybe, but I think it's more that if a layoff is to happen, in many cases, the employees who are part of a union, they're able to basically get better terms. Right? Better terms, sort of, better conditions, that kind of thing. So he goes on to say, as QA workers, we often have the weakest protections and lowest pay of any workers in the industry, even though our work is integral to the success of the companies we work for and the titles that they make, which is absolutely true. And this group, number one, they're a big union. They are the biggest union in the American games industry right now. They're joining the ranks of Blizzard Albany, Raven Software, and ZeniMax Studios, who have all, got unions that are, negotiating for better deals, and I suppose all of those union things. This is also a voluntary recognition, so that's good. But of course, well, now that they've been recognized, many would say that the hard work begins, and certainly looking at the layoff waves that have happened and the general bad treatment of QA, maybe they'll have a bit of an uphill battle. We'll have to see. If people are going to be laid off, it's a lot easier to get rid of the non-union people. Indeed, if you are a person in the ZeniMax QA union, you're probably thinking that it's good that you're in that union because they were not impacted by the Microsoft layoffs, which I suppose raises an eyebrow. Now, here are the words of someone called Autumn Mitchell, who is in the ZeniMax Workers Union, and here's just what they wrote for Polygon. Now, we are bargaining our first contract and making good headway. Already, we've got ZeniMax to agree to include our subcontractor colleagues in our union, and we've won the right to negotiate the way AI is incorporated into our work. That, I think, is a really, really good thing. Often what we're seeing with AI, right, is, you have this technology, which genuinely is very impressive, can do very cool things. However, in many cases, it is sort of, cost reduction focused bigwigs who don't actually do the jobs themselves, who are kind of pushing all of that into companies. Whereas the people who are more in the front line of the job, if they maybe had a say in how AI was used, then it could perhaps be better harnessed by the staff. And I'm sure no matter what it is, we all know what it's like to have a boss who doesn't really know the minutiae of the job that you do kind of come in and, make big sweeping changes or whatever and kind of screw you around. That sort of sucks. So that they've, I think it's actually pretty nifty that they've got that negotiated. Anyway, Autumn goes on to say, and all of us have been spared during the last 2 rounds of layoffs. While it's unclear if that's due to our organizing, our union status likely saved us. Now, that's good for those workers. In a way, you could also say it's good for the company. So ZeniMax themselves probably didn't want to have those layoffs. Those were a pretty top-down thing for Microsoft. If you're a company like that, retention is important. And yes, while these unionized workers could be pesky and, having more bargaining power, well, they could also be the people who stay at your company longer. And that means they'll be more skilled. That means they'll have all of that on-the-job training, that vital stuff that so often just goes unrecognized whenever big kind of CEO types just think that, humans are these kind of replaceable, sort of interchangeable little units of labor that I guess, like, I don't know, like Neo in the Matrix, just, you plug them into the machine to generate some power. A human's a human. Where, it's obviously not like that. So anyway, look, that's a fairly bright story. That's the note we're ending on today. There will be a video tomorrow. I am, in fact, just about to record it. It's going to be on Helldivers, assuming no crazy news drops. I'm very excited. I've just finished my PC build. I should be able to play Helldivers 2 at like 1440p, 120 hertz. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm going to go and defend managed democracy. So on that note, have a brilliant day. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.